Hello everyone, welcome to the one of the few respites we have in this clown decade where things seem to be getting better after they've got to their worst possible point. And in this video today we are once again talking about trans kids. Because putting kids on hormone blockers, of which we do not know the long-term effects if they have been on hormone blockers since, say, age 14, it is probably best not to be doing it at a clinic that doesn't have the proper scrutiny that would be expected of any other clinic throughout the country of Great Britain. And a few weeks ago it turned out that the Tavistock Centre, the centre that I have been covering for about 3 years on this channel, is finally about to close down. And in this article I wrote for the Wellington Project, I do make the point of, well, this is closing and may seem like a white pill, but please pay attention, there's a bit more to the story than that. And now I'm going to do probably what is going to be one of the weirdest things for me to do on this channel, which is read my own words. Because at one point in the article I go through the review that forced the NHS to close the clinic down. This is why today's news is good news, as the move comes after the conclusion of the latest review of the clinic by Dr. Hilary Cass, commissioned in September 2020. The review makes the following points about the clinic. The rapid increase in the number of children required, support, and the complex case mix means that the current clinical model with a single national provider is not sustainable in the longer term. We need to know more about the population being referred and outcomes. There has not been routine and consistent data collection, which means it's not possible to accurately track the outcomes and pathways that children and young people take through the service. There is a lack of consensus and open discussion about the nature of gender dysphoria and therefore about the appropriate clinical response. Because the specialist service has evolved rapidly and organically in response to demand, the clinical approach and overall service design has not been subjected to some of the normal quality controls that are typically applied when new or innovative treatments are introduced. In short, the centralised clinic has been overwhelmed with referrals over the past few years at levels that cannot be sustained. Despite being overwhelmed, there is limited consensus on treatment among doctors, and the clinic has not had the adequate quality controls or outcome oversight that is expected in an NHS trust. The suggestions moving forward are that children and young people with gender incongru or dysphoria must receive the same standards of clinical care, assessment and treatment as every other child or young person accessing health services. The care of this group of young children and young people is everyone's business. Our initial work indicates that clinicians at all levels feel that they have transferable skills and commitment to support these children and young people, but there needs to be agreement and guidance about the appropriate clinical assessment process that should take place at primary, secondary and tertiary level, underpinned by better data and evidence. Addressing the challenges will require service transformation with support offered at different levels of the health service. The Reviews Research Programme will not just build the evidence base in the UK, but will also contribute to the global evidence base, meaning that young people, their families, carers and the clinicians supporting them can make more informed decisions about the right path for them. Which means that trans kids are still going to be referred to clinics and medical centres throughout the UK. It's just, it won't all be in this one centralised place at the Tavistock Centre, which has managed to slip under the radar with reviews and outcome data, and essentially it's just been completely lackluster compared to other clinics within the NHS. So it's good that these kids, because they clearly have mental health issues, are getting the treatment they need, and it is also good that they seem to be moving away from fast tracking them onto hormone blockers, because we don't have the data to prove that it works or that it's reversible. However, what this isn't saying is that kids will not be put on hormone blockers at all, just that data collection and reviews for putting them on hormone blockers will be under more scrutiny than they were in the Tavistock Centre, which okay is good but not ideal. Luckily, some news came out today that may make it completely impossible for anyone to give kids under 16 hormone blockers again. And that is this white pilling news. Tavistock Gender Clinic to be sued by 1,000 families. NHS England is shutting the Tavistock Gender Clinic over safety concerns following a damning external review. It's so good to get good news for once. The Clown Decade does give you some respite. There is hope out there, thank God. The Tavistock Gender Clinic is facing mass legal action from youngsters who claim they were rushed into taking life-altering puberty blockers. Lawyers expect about 1,000 families to join a medical negligence lawsuit alleging vulnerable children have been misdiagnosed and placed on damaging medical pathway. They are accusing the Gender Identity Development Service, the GIDS, at the Tavistock and Portman NHS Trust of multiple failures in its duty of care. This includes allegations it recklessly prescribed puberty blockers with harmful side effects and adopted an unquestioning affirmative approach to children identifying as transgender. These are all things that I raised concern about when I first found out about the Tavistock Centre and Mermaid's links to it. H-Bomber guy, you can get fucked. Graham Linehan was correct. And hopefully there will be a mass apology to the people who are being sued and who supported mermaids and trans kids to Graham Linehan, because his life has just been completely destroyed because he was correct, even if he was a bit of a dick to Count Dankula. But hey, I'm hearing that maybe he's coming around to the fact that he was a dick, so let's be quite forgiving if he does, eh? The law firm Pogust Goodhead has since announced it is pursuing a group litigation order against the trust, which has treated 19,000 children with gender dysphoria, the feeling that one's emotion and psychological identity differs from one's birth sex, since 1989. My god, that was much earlier than I thought, but the only reason it came to the forefront is because literally thousands of children have been sent to this clinic, because there's this whole transgender thing going on these days, and if anyone tries to say there isn't, all you have to do is point to the amount of non-binary people there are on the internet who are clearly just doing it for attention. Former patients given puberty blockers are joining the class action lawsuit, and papers are due to be lodged at the High Court within 6 months. Important to note, as I go through in my Wellington Project article, the High Court has actually seen a case like this before, and originally passed judgment that yes, the Tavistock clinic clearly screwed up by giving a 16-year-old hormone blockers and fast-tracking her to genital replacement surgery and all that. But then 6 months later it was appealed by the Tavistock Centre, with Mermaid's help of course, and that appointment and judgment was overturned, unfortunately. So hopefully, with thousands of people complaining about it, we will finally get a law that says you cannot give kids under 16 hormone therapy of any sort. Tom Goodhead, chief executive of Pogust Goodhead, told The Times, children and young adolescents were rushed into treatment without the appropriate therapy and involvement of the right clinicians, meaning that they were misdiagnosed and started on a treatment pathway that was not right for them. These children have suffered life-changing and in some cases irreversible effects of the treatment they received. We anticipate that at least 1,000 clients will join this action. Incredible. You'll love to see it. Because especially for the irreversible treatment that some of these people have received, there should be justice for the suffering that they have experienced. And there should absolutely be a law protecting kids from it. And psychologists and clinicians should really get together and actually have a major discussion on what gender actually is, because a lot of psychologists have recognised that there is a big nature argument when it comes to your sex and gender, because the whole thing with sex and gender is that obviously everything about a human being is informed by biology to some degree. And I do not have a problem with accepting that gender dysphoria is a mental health issue and does exist. One thing I do question, though, that never seems to be questioned, is going through transition surgery actually the best thing for everyone with gender dysphoria? And hopefully with court cases like this, we can now start questioning these things a bit more. Because it might turn out that it's good for everyone with gender dysphoria. I highly doubt it, but I'd love to see more robust studies behind it, which isn't what you tend to get. You tend to just get, and this happens all over the Western world, kids and people as well are just rushed in to get these surgeries, get these hormones on, and the real question is why. This is another thing that needs to be questioned. Why is all this? I wouldn't be surprised if you followed the money, you'd find the answer. And hopefully with the Tavistock Centre shutting down and the monopoly on transgender kids being completely dispersed throughout the United Kingdom, that anyone making money off that place will no longer be doing so. Anyway, back to the article. The allegations of medical negligence are based on the findings of an interim report by Dr. Hilary Cass, a former president of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, who is leading a review of the service. Cass found the clinic overlooked other mental health issues in children distressed about their gender and failed to collect data or the use or side effects of puberty blockers, which she said may temporarily or permanently disrupt the development of children's brains. Oof. A GIDS spokesperson said GIDS has not heard from Pogust Goodhead about this matter, but would be inappropriate to comment on any current or potential legal proceedings. The service is committed to patient safety. It works with every young person on a case-by-case basis, with no expectation of what might be the right pathway for them, and only the minority of young people who are seen in our service access any physical treatment while with us. Which only begs the question, how are thousands of families coming forward with this lawsuit, presumably with anecdotes that it has ruined their development in some way and caused suffering? So this will clearly be a court case that is one to keep an eye on for those of you interested. This may be the case that is the first of many dominoes to fall across the Western world that finally gets us answers as to why kids have been on hormone blockers when they clearly shouldn't have been, why so many kids are being sent to these clinics to check if they have gender dysphoria, and then when they've been misdiagnosed, why have they been misdiagnosed, and then why, when they are diagnosed with gender dysphoria, the first thing that a lot of these treatments and clinicians try and do is get them straight on hormone blockers. Of course, it may be a bit more complicated than that, but this is what these court proceedings are for. They will, hopefully in this case with over 1,000 clients, dig down into the detail, find out exactly what was going on beyond just this review at the Tavistock Centre, and bring the people responsible to justice, assuming, and I am making not the biggest assumption in the world I think, but I think some people will be brought to justice on this case. Naturally, this will probably take months, so hopefully by 2023 we'll have heard some very good news about some of the clinicians at the Tavistock Centre, and then hopefully the next targets will be Stonewall and Mermaids, the charities that seem to be pushing pretty hard to get these kids on their poor medical pathways. I'd like to remind everyone that I also mentioned in the Wellington Project article that the CEO of Mermaids took her child over to Thailand to have gender reassignment surgery because it was illegal here at the age of 16. How she's not in jail is beyond me. I mean, I guess technically she didn't break any laws. But I will say, as I say in the article, if she's willing to run that experiment on her own child, imagine what she would do to yours. But anyway, that's everything I had for you today. A little white pill video. Take that into your weekend. And of course, have a good one. I am more than likely going to be sunbathing throughout this weekend because it is hotter than the sun in the UK at the moment. So as usual, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.